So tomorrow is AEW Final Battle, the ROH brand, and I do want to say a couple of things that I really think that we need to talk about, like the ROH part of AEW, because that's definitely been hurting the company in a lot of different ways, and I also think that definitely what needs to happen for AEW to be profitable and successful and actually have more of an appeal in 2024 is that they need to do a lot of reshaping of the company. And definitely a lot of people are saying that. And I really want to share my opinion because, I definitely want to help out AEW. And definitely it's always important to have an alternative. It's always important to have an alternative wrestling brand. It just can't be WWE stuff. So what I want to say is that I'm a little concerned with the AEW Final Battle because honestly, like I've seen no promotions for the event, like nothing on YouTube, and then also too that I don't think they even have an ROH show. They just have Collision, Dynamite, and Rampage, but the dark matches are kind of like the ROH stuff. Like I don't think that you would turn on a television program and you would see AEW ROH or something like that. So that's also the big thing too is that most people don't know even if they have a show or not. And then also too if it's just on their YouTube channel, that's really stupid because even though people do watch YouTube, it's good to kind of have a more of a more of a brand, stuff like that. And then also the other thing too is that I do not believe that Adam Cole and MJF are appearing on the card. It would be good if they were appearing on the card because usually when you do shows like NXT, like look what Vince McMahon did with NXT. He was kind of like, you know what, it can't just be independent wrestlers that nobody knows about. It has to be a mix. That's why you have Dominic Mysterio. That's why you have Rey Mysterio appear. That's why you have Baron Corbin. Because if you just have main roster people, if you just have ROH, if you just have NXT people and nobody knows who the hell they are, it's like, why would I watch this product, and that's kind of one of the issues. And then also, like, Athena's on the poster. And, like, yes, Athena had some she had some notoriety in WWE, but not a lot of notoriety. It would make more sense if you had Ronda Rousey versus Athena. That would be a better match. And also too, like I've not even looked at the match card, and or anything like that really. Because and one of the reasons why I haven't is because there's nothing on it that appeals to me. And I really think that, as I said, that there's definitely a lot of talking points on how ROH can be better. That first of all, I think what Tony Khan should have done, he should have never purchased ROH. I think he should have just had AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision, like treat it like a Raw and SmackDown show where it's just both main event members. So I think that honestly, him purchasing ROH was not good because there's just a lot of wrestlers on that roster, and there was really nobody. He really got nobody good. I mean, he got nobody that was kind of like a next generation. Like, name one ROH person that that now works for AEW that has any notoriety, and the only person I can think of is Eddie Kingston, and then the other person I can think of is Dalton Castle. Some people talk about Shane Taylor, but he's kind of really not done a lot of things. So it's really those three, and like it's not like he made his money back. So I would have never purchased ROH, and I also think that this will be an incentive for Tony Khan not to do something like purchase TNA Impact Wrestling as well. So the first thing he should have done was never purchased in the first place. The next thing that I think he should have done is that he should have never had Collision. I think it should have been ROH or AEW presents ROH. And then that way you use ROH just like NXT. It's your developmental show. And then what you do is that you have some people on the roster that are actually main roster people. Like you have MJF and Adam Cole with the ROH tag team titles. And then you have MJF on Dynamite with the heavyweight title. Like one show's about one title and all that. Like he makes each show about each of the titles that he holds. The next thing I would say is that obviously you have Samoa Joe, and then you also have Eddie Kingston, and then you have people like Mark Briscoe who had a lot of attention, and then you do feuds with that, and then also with Athena, like I said, like it should be Athena Ronda Rousey. So like honestly, having its own show would be good because of a couple of things. You can kind of tie in main roster people to help the show have more exposure. You can also tie in people like people that have some fatigue, meaning that you put like, look how Baron Corbin, he's not that popular in the main roster, but he was able to main event an NXT show. So sometimes you may do that. You may be like, okay, well, the Young Bucks have too much exposure on AEW. Maybe we should just give everybody a break for them and put them on ROH for a couple of months. Or like, when CM Punk was kind of like pissed off and whatever, they could have brought him back on the AEW, on an AEW ROH show. He becomes the ROH champion, and then you're going to have champion versus champion. Or you can have Kenny Omega go after the championship. Or one day when they started with ROH, Chris Jericho was the ROH champion. What would happen if you did Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara? So actually having its own show and having these own like booking and storylines would actually have been better. Not just like what I see, which is usually the dark matches and everything like that, really. And then as you go along in time, when you have that mix of people on the roster, eventually you can do a match like Shane Taylor versus Samoa Joe and actually have Shane Taylor win. And then you can actually do a match where you have the Acclaim versus the Boys. You can actually do a match where you have Mobile Embassy versus the Boys and Dalton Castle, or you can actually have them versus another team, or you can have another trio team like the Righteous, and you find another member versus the Hardy Boys, or actually or do a trios team with the Young Bucks and Adam Page. So that's also another thing as well, is that in addition to not having its own show, in addition to not having a better usage of main event wrestlers, like kind of make them more responsible by putting them on a different show. The other thing that's another big issue is that you have a lot of ROH people lose. That, Shane Taylor lost when a lot of people felt that he should have won against Samoa Joe. Definitely they have a bunch of ROH matches. Like, you have people like Dalton Castle, who's a jobber, and the Boys, who are a jobber. And then also you have you also have like the Righteous, who lost to MJF in a one against two match. So that's also another big issue too, is that you don't really have the ROH people win, and then you actually don't have them transitioning into the main roster. Like, honestly, the Righteous were over, and they honestly should have been the tag team champion. They should be feuding with Big Bill and and Ricky Starks, or Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. That should be happening within the next 6 months, really, just to show that it's worth it. Or Mobile Embassy, like they have the ROH 6-man titles. What would happen if they said something like, at World's End we're gonna fight the Acclaim, or at World's End we're gonna fight, or at like AEW Revolution we're gonna do that match, or we're gonna like beat down like the Young Bucks and Adam Page, and then they have a match, and they have a match, or they say like, okay, well, winner takes all. Like maybe you have the Team Elite versus Mobile Embassy versus the Acclaim, and they all like have like a 3-way match. Even if one of them doesn't have a title, you do that. And then the other thing too is that like Athena has done nothing really, in my opinion, to stand out. And like I said, like you have Samoa Joe hold the TV championship. He's featured every single week. He's actually probably their most featured ROH person, if you consider him an ROH person, because he's held an ROH title for so long. He's probably the person who stood out with an ROH title. And then the next person is MJF and Adam Cole. But you don't see the women standing out. Don't they have a women's tag team, or don't they have like a women's champion? And Athena, you don't see her having matches like with, Chris Statlander, like they have, or even like you do something like Athena versus Jade Cargill, or Athena versus Taylor Wilde. No, I don't remember her name. Tony Storm. I keep saying Taylor Wilde, but there's really just bad. It's just bad utilization. And that really, really needs to stop. But as I said, I think the number one thing is you give ROH its 2-hour show. You don't make it a dark match show. And then you kind of also look at your main roster and you kind of say, like, if there's any interesting feuds, maybe you take a bunch of people that are getting like a little like that you see a little too much of on AEW, and then you put on the ROH show, or you do something like you have underutilized wrestlers. Like for example, like what would happen if you had Eddie Kingston's now the ROH champion? What if you do Eddie Kingston versus Ricky Starks and have Ricky Starks hold the ROH championship for a couple of months? What would happen if you did something like Nyla Rose? Like I said, like Nyla Rose has a big personality. What would happen if she went Athena versus Nyla Rose? That would be a good match. Ronda Rousey versus Athena would be a good match. What if Ronda Rousey was the ROH Women's Champion and she wants to fight, either Toni Storm or Anna Jay or Chris Statlander? That would be a really great match. What would happen if you take like a tag team like Top Flight, and you have them have a match, and you have them go face MJF and Adam Cole. Roderick Strong's back. Like I think that putting a title on him, especially with all the drama that he's causing, you could do ROH champion Roderick Strong versus MJF, and how interesting that would be if you had like a trios title, them hold the ROH trios title versus MJF and Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, and it's for the trios champion. Even if they or with Billy Gunn or whatever. There's so much that they can do with ROH, but it's underutilization. And I think that, as I said, that Tony Khan and I have the same weakness, which is that we're both ambitious people and we do too much. And sometimes when you do too much, you can't manage everything. The fact that last week they couldn't even sell 1,000 tickets. Now this week, I think they're struggling to sell 3,000 tickets. That's just embarrassing. It's a sign that things need to change. And as they said, I think it cost Tony Khan like $34 million to buy ROH, and he lost $34 million. And it should be a reminder that there's definitely an issue that he needs to work on. AEW has an ROH problem.